Hello, I'm GiGi the Reader, and today I will be doing a review on The Blood of Wonderland by Colleen Oakes. This is a sequel from the last book, The Queen of Hearts. This book is about the Queen of Hearts, but she's not yet the Queen of Hearts. She's the princess. She has not yet become the Queen of Hearts. From the last book, Dinah the princess has run away from the castle and run away into the woods because she's been falsely accused of killing her brother Charles, whom her father murdered for the crown. In the last book, Dinah has run away into the woods on her father's best and biggest horse, a different breed of horse called Hornhoof named Mort. Her and Mort are bonding as friends as they travel deeper into the twisted wood, hiding from her father and his heart-card soldiers. We find that Dinah's mother was born into royalty and was the queen before she died. After she died, Dinah's father became King of Wonderland. Negotiations between Dinah's grandfather. Oh my God. Hold on. Wait a minute. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for the rude interruption. That's my co-host, Shaquita, the fairy of the bees. She's always running late. Hold on. Just a minute. Here I come.
Hold on, GG, baby. I know I'm late. Here I come. Move out the way. Move out the way. Let me get over to the light. What book is this today? Hold on, let me see. Let me get near the mic. Hold on. What book is this one? Oh, okay. This gonna be good. This was this Blood of Wonderland? Oh, okay. That's the lead. That's the next book from this. After the Queen of Hearts. Okay.
Right.
Okay, this is the sequel to Queen of Hearts. Yeah, this one's gonna be good, GG.
Yeah, okay. All right, so you can have a seat.
Excuse me, okay, I'm just, let me put my bags down and everything. I just be sits over here. Take your mic back on. I just want to know what we're covering today. Okay. Continue on.
Okay, where was I at? Okay, negotiations between Dinah's grandfather and the King of Hearts at the time, Davina's father. Davina is Dinah's mother, who had died 10 years prior to the story. And Davina's father ensured her place on the throne. From the time she was born, Davina was groomed to be Queen of Hearts, much like Dinah. Dinah didn't see her father from age 3 to 5 when he was off fighting the Yorkie wars. At that time, she grew fiercely attached to her mother and Harris, her advisor and teacher. When Dinah's father returned from the war, he was a changed man. He was angry and increasingly cruel toward them both, her and her mother. That's when she took the care of her brother Charles from her mother and gave his care over to Lucy and Quintrell, two servants who became Charles's caregivers. The year her mother died, the white fever had raged through Wonderland. Her mother became ill, but no one in the palace had caught it besides her mother. The king, Dinah's father, became physically abusive to her mother. Further into the story, we find that Dinah and Mort came upon a cottage in the woods. The house looked abandoned. The door was wide open, and it looked as if it had been ransacked when she entered. There were things thrown around, some furniture and torn blankets, but it was a nicely built cottage. In the backyard, she spotted a man who was laying on the ground, dead, with an arrow in his back. Judging by the arrow's end, red-blown glass heart that topped the end of the arrow, he had been shot by a heart-card soldier from the palace. She quickly mounted Mort, and they bolted east. The heart guards were traveling north, still searching for her. Dinah thought to herself she could only fight off so many of the guards, but she would not be taken to the Black Tower. She would force them to kill her. If this was going to be the way it ended, so be it. Her father was having her hunted down falsely and falsely accused her of killing her brother Charles when it was the king who killed him. He needed an excuse not to crown Dinah the queen or on her 18th birthday. He refused to hand the crown over to her. So now she found herself and Mort surrounded by the guards. She could hear them, but they couldn't see her. Suddenly she could hear the same voice that warned her in the castle the night her brother was killed. The voice was telling her to hide if you want to live. Don't fight, hide. She and Mort avoided the guards by hiding in the dark of the night woods. They were close but couldn't find her. They ran off in another direction. That's when she heard the voice again, then heard the person jump down from the trees as she was hiding. Dinah finds out who the mystery voice is. It's a spade guard named Sir Gorin. He told her he didn't believe she killed her brother because he knew how fond of her brother she was. He'd seen her visit her brother every day, and he knew she had no reason to kill him. Her brother was never a threat to the crown, to her crown. She finds out it is a man named Sir Gorin Spade the guard. He told Dinah he knew she would never kill her brother because he was never a threat to her crown. It was hers for the taking. He told her Wonderlanders were calling her the rebel queen. So Gorin assures Dinah that Wortley is safe. Wortley was her boyfriend, a heart guard and stable boy at the castle. Even though the king at first wanted to kill him for letting her escape with his horse, but he would no longer be promoted to Knave of Hearts. The king took his title away. She learns from the spade that Vittori has been crowned queen. Vittori is her half sister and was crowned duchess, but now has been crowned the queen. She finds out she's been crowned the queen. Yes.
Victoria was crowned what? So Miss Victoria took Gina's crown?
Yep, that's what happened.
Hell to the no, no. I know. I don't know how Gina feels about being a queen or having a crown, but I'd be just damned if she would take my rightful place. Because, see, me being able to relate to Dinah as queen, I'm Shaquita the fairy, queen of the bees, so I can relate. Oh, don't make that all about me. I'm just saying, GiGi the reader, I can relate. Nobody gonna take my crown. Oh, no. Well, we all kind of knew. We kind of knew she was eyeballing her crown on the throne, her spot on the throne, that Victoria was going to try to take her place. The Duchess is going to try to be crowned the queen. We kind of saw it in a way, but that crooked, no good bastard of a king would take the crown and give it to Victoria.
Yep.
Okay, GiGi, I'm handing it back to you. Continue on.
Thank you. Okay, she finds out her friend and servant Harris has been imprisoned in the Black Towers and forced into slave labor. He was a father figure to Dinah. Her female servant Emily was beheaded for treason in a public execution.
Wow, so now we find out her one father figure, somebody who was like a father, so Harris was forced into slave labor, and her other close friend, servant Emily, was beheaded.
Right.
Well, I wouldn't put nothing past that. Her evil bastard ass father, the king. He is cold-hearted. Had Emily beheaded and had Harris sold into slave labor.
Right.
Then, if you don't get back to that castle and take your rightful place and get your crown. Okay, all right. I have no more interruptions. All right, I'll let you get back to the story. We gotta see what happens. Go ahead, GiGi, to read it.
Thank you. Okay, Sir Gorin tells Dinah how he used to have a family, a wife, and a daughter who lived in a small village. One day while away hunting, he came home to find it had been attacked, burned to the ground, and robbed of his cattle. Only a few women and children were still alive but his father. His wife and his young daughter were killed by Wonderland Heart soldiers. His dying friend assured him it was the Heart soldiers who raided the village. After he buried his wife and daughter, he tracked 60 of the guards down and killed them one by one. After that, he left the Twisted Wood, never wanting to see it again. Eventually, he ended up in the Black Towers after living as a thief and being caught. From there, he was forced to join the Spades as one of the king's guards. He was grateful he became the lead tracker for the king. He joined the Cards to trap, kill, and get vengeance on the last murderer, the young king who ordered the raid on his village. He planned to kill the King of Hearts, but for now the king was too guarded. Though he wanted to get his vengeance, Dinah assured him she had no intentions to ever travel back to Wonderland or return to the castle. Something happens where Sir Goran and Dinah have to flee from the area they are in. Something happens where Sir Goran and Dinah have to flee from the area they're in. Some of the king's soldiers are still searching for them. He leads her to a rocky enclave and they escape the soldiers through a hidden tunnel. They walked through the dark tunnel until they ended up in a beautiful, warm valley filled with fields of colorful flowers and mushrooms as tall as trees. As they were enjoying the warmth of the valley, walking and taking in the view, suddenly they were surrounded by hundreds of Yerki fighters, shooting arrows at them. Mandu, the chief of the Yerki, informed Dinah that she trespassed on the sacred burial ground of the Yerki tribe. She was told that she had to give up all her food, belongings, and Mort, her horse. She refused to give up Mort. Continuing, Mundo wants Mort because he knows he belongs to the king, and the king used Mort to kill many Yerki soldiers in battle. Because Mort was drugged from the mushrooms he ate, he was marched slowly from the fields towards a place called Huyuhar with Dinah and Sir Goran. Dinah wondered why Sir Goran even led her there through the tunnel in the first place. Huyuhar was a small city in Yerki, a valley surrounded by mountains. Finally, while imprisoned in the valley, she was marched into Mundu's throne room to be interrogated. He told her she did not look like or favor her father, the king. He saw little to no resemblance in her. She told him she took that as a compliment, seeing that she hated her father because he murdered her brother. Mundu explained, quote, "For hundreds of years, my people lived on their land at peace until soldiers came by boat from a distant land, from the other worlds, you call them, and established the Wonderland Palace and pushed us back into the mountains. Your ancestors declared war on us, and we have been battling the line of hearts ever since." Then he tells her he has spies in the castle and knows her father is planning a great war to push his people into the sea and seeks to destroy the city of Huyura.
Wow, so Mundu, the chief, Yerky, and he bought that life, huh? He got spies?
Yeah.
So he got on his own little network set up.
Mm-hmm.
So they got more intelligence than we give a Yerky credit for.
Right.
GiGi the reader. He got spies. He bought that life, huh? He got spies in the castle.
Yeah.
So I guess the king's into all this. So I guess Sir Goran was one of his spies too. Wow. Okay.
Give it a mic.
Well, excuse me, GiGi the reader. I'm just trying to keep up with the story. I mean, I read it, but
Okay.
all right. Okay.
So anyway, Mundo thinks
All
of...
right. Continue on.
Oh my
Continue
God.
on.
Thank you. Okay, so Mundo thinks of what use he could get out of Dinah. He starts to ask about her father. She tells him he's an evil man who's full of hate and is a drunk who gets most of his advice from another evil man by the name of Cheshire. Then she says she's an exiled princess who was brought to his mushroom fields by accident. She didn't know why Sir Goran brought her there and didn't know it was an ancient burial ground. After their talk, Mundo ordered his men to take her to the spade Sir Goran, where he was being held, not far from Mundo's throne room. They both would remain captive until Mundo decided what to do with them, but they were being well fed and taken care of. One day, Dinah asked Sir Goran why he led her there. He only answered by saying, "That's really for you to decide." The day came when she met Bakan. He was as white as Dinah. He does not look like any of the Yorkie people. He tells her his real name is Stern Raver, and he was once the highest ranking club card in the king's army. So basically, he is one of the king's rogue soldiers. He's a huge giant of a man. He's the one who is to train Dinah. Dinah says she's heard of him, but like everyone in Wonderland, she thought he was dead. He says to call him. He says to call him by his Yerky name, Bakan, which means tall warrior. Dinah wondered why they were training her to fight, but at least they weren't killing her. After months of training, she was becoming a strong fighter and was starting to enjoy living in the Yorkie Mountains. But she still wondered what Mundu was training her for, and if he still planned on having her put to death. One evening, while taking a stroll through the mountains, she came upon an area she had never visited. She thought she smelled sweet tarts and pies baking, similar to the ones that were baked when she lived at her castle. Curious, she followed the scent to an open field and surprisingly came upon a table in a clearing. What she saw was startling. It was a long table, magnificently set with towering teacups in every shade, adorned with buckets and flowers that stood before her. The table was covered with all of her favorite Wonderland tarts, raspberry and cream, whipped limes and butter roses, deep cocoa mixed with powdered jam. They rested alongside haphazardly piled plates and cups, candles and steaming glasses of hot tea. A bright pink checkered tablecloth brushed against the tall grass, and in the middle sat a cake. Dinah's own heart clenched, and she clutched her dagger as she began to back away from the table. A tall figure emerged from the trees and stepped forward and said, "Hello, Your Highness. Won't you have a cup of tea with me? Nothing would make me happier." It was Cheshire, the king's wicked adviser. Dinah got into a tussle with Cheshire, with him ending up besting her by twisting her arm behind her back and whispering in her ear. She realizes his whispered voice sounded familiar. It was the same voice that came from the stranger who stood over her bed that night and warned her to run because the king had killed her brother. Hey, this part of the story confused me because I thought Sir Goran was the one that came to her room in the middle of the night.
Excuse me, wait a minute.
Okay, here you come again.
Wait a minute.
Mm-hmm.
What's going on, GiGi? Wait a minute. I thought that they said that back a couple of chapters ago, they just said that, or at least we read that Dinah thought that Sir Goran was the voice she heard in her room. Now all of a sudden, it's Cheshire?
Right. Mm-hmm.
That was the voice in her room. Didn't we just read a few chapters back that it was Cheshire? That it was Sir Goran? Now the author got us confused, or either Dinah got us confused, or Dinah been smoking that doggone peace pipe too much. She got since with Mundo. What she been smoking now? First she said that she know the voice. The voice sounds familiar. A couple of chapters back, when Sir Goran told her to hide in the woods, she said that Sir Goran's voice sounded familiar, and it was the room in the bedroom that first warned her. Now she's sitting here in Cheshire whispering in her ear, and she's saying it's Cheshire's voice. Dinah, you better get together, Dinah, because you went from one extreme to another. You said the voice in your bedroom that warned you was Sir Goran. Now you're saying it was Cheshire. You've been smoking that peace pipe with Mandu too much.
I guess. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm just saying, GiGi the reader. I'm just saying, so either the author got it twisted or she got it twisted. She's been smoking that peace pipe with the confused. I guess she forgot that she said T voice was Sir Goring. Now she is Cheshire, she think. She don't know who the stranger was. We're gonna find out though. We're gonna find out. All she gotta do is ask if it was Goring, Sir Goring. Was he the one in her room? But now all of a sudden it's Cheshire. Okay. Somebody lying.
Yep.
Lies. Well, we'll see. Alright, continue on.
Dinah sat and stared as he told her. Dinah sat and stared as he told her a long story of how he came to work for her father. As a diamond of cards, he worked as an accountant until he was hired at the king's bank. He attended royal functions and dinners and met her mother, Daviana, before she was married to the king. He fell in love with her. He told Dinah she was not in love with her father. But she married him anyway because she longed to be queen. He continued, I loved your mother for 11 years with my body and soul, and together we conceived a child named Dinah. You're my beautiful and strong daughter. Wow.
He said, what did you read? What?
Wow.
Hold on, wait a minute. Let me get to the mic. He said, what now?
I didn't see that coming.
She is what? His daughter?
Right.
Wow.
Hmm.
We didn't see this coming. No, we did not see this coming. He said, I loved your mother for 11 years with both my body, soul, and body, and we conceived a child, and it was you, my daughter. What? So Gina's mama was a straight up hoe. I'm just saying, GiGi. I mean, that's what I'm not saying she was, GiGi. I'm just saying I'm repeating what he said. Basically, she was a whore. I mean, he said that after she married the king, she had an 11-year affair with another man, and they conceived a child, GiGi.
Right.
That's how, I mean, wow. Wow, it's really getting good. Not GiGi the reader. Well. Okay then. Cheshire. Man, back in the day, he done went with the queen and produced a child, and it's Dinah.
Right.
Oh my God. Well, this explains a lot. Okay. All right, GiGi the reader. Okay. I just had to get this straight. Okay, continue on. Let me move out the way. This getting good.
Okay, of course Dinah doesn't believe him at first and calls him a liar. He tells her the king always suspected her of cheating but could never prove it. He told Dinah when her mother suddenly fell ill when Dinah was 10, he suspected she was poisoned. He already suspected that you were not his because of your dark hair and dark eyes, so unlike Charles with his blonde hair, surely your father's child. Cheshire blamed another man of being Dinah's father, a diamond card who was beheaded. Cheshire then was given his job and worked his way up until he was the king's chief advisor. Dinah felt as if she was going to be sick. He said he did it all to keep an eye on her and make sure she had a good childhood.
Wow, so at this point, can we just have a vote or some kind of judgment on who's the worst bastard in this book, in this story? Is it Cheshire or the King of Hearts? Cheshire is really a bastard.
Yes, he is.
Even though he was having an affair with Dinah's mama, who seemed like she was a straight up hoe. I'm sorry. She was. She was having a 10 or 11 year affair with her, and then he falsely had another man, told the king that another man was Dinah's real father, and accused another man of having an affair with her, so it wouldn't come back on him. And after he had the man beheaded, he took the man's job.
Right.
Wow, I don't know who is worse now. Is it Cheshire? Cheshire is just straight up, just straight out cold-blooded.
He is.
Okay, alright. So I guess he is a daddy. He is just your cooking-ass father, Tina. Okay, alright, carry on, GiGi the reader. Carry on. We gotta get this getting good, though. Let's next chapter. Carry on.
Okay, so he said he encouraged the king to go to war with the Yorkie when she was young, so she and her mother would have peace. But the king was sure Dinah was not his child and could never follow him to the throne. He said the king traveled far from Wonderland to a village where he chanced upon a small hut. A woman and a girl were making necklaces out of seashells. The girl was beautiful and had hair the exact same color as the king's. He took the girl and had the mother, Fiona Baker, thrown into the Black Towers. He then christened the girl with the name Vittori and told the court it was his long lost daughter.
Wait a minute, GG.
Hmm.
Wait a minute. Wow. Wow. Let me
Whoa.
get near the mic again.
Uh-oh.
Wow, so this king, he just never ceases to amaze us at the level of a bastard that he could be. So now we find out that Victoria is not even his.
Right. Not his blood daughter.
Wow. So he go finds a kid and then takes the mother and has the mother he just randomly finds a woman with a kid with hair the same color as his and just throws the mother in the Black Towers and locks her up. And this kid is not even his. So neither Vittori nor Dinah is his. So he don't have any blood. His only real blood child was Charles, the one that was killed or he killed. Wow. But Vittoria's not even his blood daughter. And so then he had Fiona locked up. And in the last book, she was killed. He had her killed after he had her locked up. They really did just this more reason to have them killed. Wow. Okay. All right, GiGi, read it. I'm gonna let you get back to the story.
Thank you.
This king, he needs to eat.
So Cheshire continues to tell her the plans the king made and how he went about them to put Vittori on the throne and not Dinah because he knew Dinah wasn't his. Cheshire said he gave Dinah as many clues as he could to clue her in on Vittori and Fiona Baker, Vittoria's mother. He showed her the tunnels to the Black Towers and put the veil with the note in the dessert that day. He continued, quote, the king was hungry for a shift in power, and once he learned of your excursion to the Black Towers, he decided to behead Fiona. It was a message for you, but its true purpose was to remind Victoria of what would happen if she ever rebelled against him. It was unthinkably cruel, but it was a well-instructed lesson to both of you to stay out of his way. After they killed her brother and caretakers that night, the king came to him and told him what he did. He told Dinah, quote, he came to my chamber covered with blood. He was hysterical. I calmed him down, but could not hide my horror when he told me that he had just thrown Charles from a window and murdered Lucy and Cantrell. He said he was going to frame you so that you might never ascend to the throne. Instead, it would be off with your head, or you would be thrown into the Black Towers for the remainder of your life. I knew that every moment of my life had boiled down to this one. How could I help save my daughter without revealing the truth to the king? I told the king to change, bathe, and gather his guards to help apprehend you. I ran to the kitchens and then to the weapons room. I knew you would never survive without food in the wild. You were raised in a place that gave you everything you ever needed. After I packed your bag, I ran to your room. That's when he woke her and warned her. Then Cheshire told Dinah he knew and heard about the spade tracker who had a grudge against the king. He found Sir Gorin and made a deal with him to find her and take her deep into the Yorkie Mountains where she'd be safe. It was too much for Dinah. She could barely strangle out a single bitter sentence. What Dinah said next, she said, why are you here? He said, why? Because you are my daughter, the pride and purpose of my life, and I have come to aid you as you reclaim the throne of Wonderland. Why? Because you are the true heir of Queen Dabiana, and your claim to the throne is stronger than Vittori's, who is a pauper, related to no one. I will help you take your vengeance and against the king, and with the mighty army of the Yorkie behind you. Cheshire then kneeled in front of Dinah, took a crown out of a bag, and set it on her head. After he set the crown on her head, Dinah ran away. Still in shock, she ran as fast as she could up a trail to a cliff that led to a mountain top that overlooked the valley. She sat there and contemplated everything that Cheshire had just told her. She had to think and take it all in. She sat at the top of the mountain and said to herself, Cheshire really her father? How could her mother keep it from her? So they were all part of a large scheme that Cheshire planned out. Cheshire had sought out Sir Gorin, the tracker, to take Dinah to the Yerki, and from there have Mundu, the Yerki chief, and have Bakan train her to prepare her for a second war the king was planning. Later, Sir Gorin showed up on the mountain and sat next to her. They talked. Sir Gorin admitted to being hired by Cheshire to find her, but only to get revenge and see the king be brought to justice in the end. But he told her not to trust Cheshire or underestimate him. But Goran declared he'd get revenge on the king whether she took the throne back or not. So Goran tells Dinah Cheshire had been meeting with Mundu for a few days to talk about a treaty and Dinah's safety, but Dinah contemplates not even wanting the throne anymore and would happily stay in the Yorkie Mountains. With that said, Sir Goran walks back down the trail and leaves Dinah to her thought. After running from Cheshire, Dinah realized she is still wearing the crown brought to her, the same crown her brother Charles made for her before he was murdered. It's then that she realized that she is the true Queen of Hearts and was born to sit on the throne. She then vows, I will take it with fury and swords and whatever help I could find. Pride blossomed in her chest, and every inch of her skin felt alive with promise and purpose. Dinah walked back down from the cliff at the top of the mountain, where Bakan, her trainer, Cheshire, Mundu, and Sir Goran were waiting for her. They all played her like a pawn. They planned to use her as an aid to battle the King of Hearts. Then they all slowly bowed to her on their knees as they eyed the crown on her head. She was ready to be their aid and ally. Continue on into the next chapter. We find that Dinah, along with Sir Goran, Cheshire, Mundu, and Bakan, has marched about 1,000 Yerkish warriors and 300 road car soldiers from the mountains south to the Darklands. They were preparing for war. All four men had pacts with Dinah when she became queen and took her throne. Mundu, Bakan, Cheshire, and Sir Goran. Cheshire, of course, wanted to be her main advisor. All negotiations had been signed and sealed. Cheshire had given her gifts and before the negotiations, Cheshire had given her a number of gifts, a lovely diamond brooch in the shape of a cat, a heavy purple riding cloak, and a new set of dark red leather boots printed with a heart on each heel. They planned to attack Wonderland Palace from both north and south. Dinah with her 1,000 Yerki warriors and Mundu with his 4,000 more from the south. The deal she makes with Mundu when she becomes queen is that she'll make Mort with one horn-hoof horse he has by the name of Karis. He'll get the first 6 foals. One day, Cheshire surprises her with a visitor. It's Wardley, her boyfriend. He had come with more soldiers. She was elated to see him. He had arrived with a small army of rogue spades, all dressed in black, 872 spades. She told Wardley that she found out Cheshire was her real father, but Wardley is skeptical of the story and tells her to be careful believing everything he says. Even though Cheshire helped him arrange a small army of rogue spade soldiers, he still doesn't trust them. But the spade soldiers are commanded by another spade by the name of Starry Belf, who they trust more than Wardley or Cheshire. Later, Dinah and Wardley meet with the war council and sat and spoke with Starry Belf, the spade's leader, about their plan of attack. She tells him, I know that living the life of a spade is an honor. He gets angry and tells her spades are really treated mostly with disdain and treated unfairly compared to the other guards. She finally gets the demands from Starry, what the Spades want in return for helping her fight her war with the king. He tells her the Spades have been oppressed and enslaved for hundreds of years. Their demands when she becomes queen are one, to be allowed to marry and raise children, and second, to choose to live with his family in a private household within the kingdom as do all the other cards. Third, to have their barracks move away from the Black Towers and have new rank under the heart cards and be paid accordingly. She agrees to their demands. One night after practicing sparring at their camp, Dinah couldn't fall asleep. She dreamed of a white rabbit and got up to take a walk with Mort through the campsite where the Spade soldiers and Yorkie warriors had settled. As she walked through the camp, she came to Lahora's tent, the alchemist who made healing medicines and potions. He sat in the middle of his tent smoking a large hookah pipe that emitted purple smoke. To describe him, it was smoky in the tent. Quote, her eyes were cloudy. Dinah was barely able to see the outline of the massively fat Yorkie man who sat perched on a pile of bright pillows. His girth hung over the side of the cushions, and only a yellow feather loincloth stood between her and his complete nakedness. His skin was dark and shiny. On the side of the tent, hundreds of clay pots and hanging scales all clamored for space.
What is that now, GiGi?
Here you
Come
come.
again with that?
Oh
What?
my God. Oh boy.
You have to come again with that one, GiGi.
Mm.
What type of freaky old man she come across? He sounds like, wait a minute, they say, is this still a PG-13 story time book?
Mm.
Miss Colleen Oaks? It said what again when she went to his tent? He was smoking a what? And what color was the purple smoke? And a half-naked fat man with just a loincloth covering his private parts? And his skin was dark and shiny, and his tent was smoky. Okay, so he from the hood, he stood up in his tent getting high. Everybody else in the camp preparing for a war, and he stood up there getting high. What type of what is he again, an alchemist?
Medicine man. Yep. And
Well, I don't know what you call him, GiGi, but he sounded like a freaky old man, a pothead. What was he smoking on?
mm.
Okay, if you say so, alchemist.
Yep.
Okay, and a medicine man. Is that what they call it now? Is that what they call him now, GiGi, to read a medicine man? Okay, alright. Alright, then I'm gonna let you get back to it. We got okay, continue on.
He offered her to smoke from the pipe, and she did. He then started to prophesy to her. His exact words were, quote, Queen of Hearts, the daughter of two fathers, heed my words. You will pierce the heart of one man and cut out the heart of the one you love most. Follow the crumbs to find your throne, and only then shall your head rest in the grass.
Okay, now, GiGi, now wait a minute. We gotta put our foot down somewhere with this story time. Come on now. Come on now. He done offered, she done went in this man's tent. We still call, wait, GiGi, are we still calling this man a medicine man or an alchemist? Exactly what is he offer her? A hit off of his pipe. That's what it said, GiGi the reader. That's what it said. Is this still a kid's PG-13? She goes into he's sitting there half naked with a bunch of pillows getting high off a so-called, hookah pipe. And he offers her a hit. What's in this hookah pipe, Miss Colleen Oates? That's writing it that wrote this. I mean, this is a PG. Come on now, he offers her a hit. And then he starts to prophesize. Okay. So he's sitting there getting high, and he offered her a hit. I mean, she is over the age of 18, but okay. So now he's a prophet. He's an alchemist, then he's a medicine man. I guess when you smoking that good stuff, you could be whatever you want to be. A medicine man, an alchemist, a witch doctor. get her smoke on. Okay, now, what did he tell her? He said, he prophesied something about she's the daughter. Well, he did say she is the daughter of two fathers. Okay. He said, heed my words. That part is right. He got that part right. And you will pierce the heart of one man and cut out the heart of the one you love most. But that's confusing to me, though. That part, he sounded like he had. Follow the crowns to find your throne, and only then shall your head rest in the grave. What the hell does that mean, GiGi? Is this man truly high? And he about to get Dinah high. I think Dinah need to get out. Okay. All right. I'm going to let you continue. It's getting... it is getting good. Okay. All right. Continue on.
Okay. He also prophesied more. She had inhaled a lot of smoke. He tried to prophesy more to her, but she only wanted to leave. He yelled out to her, "Would you like more, my queen?" Dinah pushed him backward into the pots and scales, which went crashing down under his massive weight. She wasn't sure what was happening. Blue smoke was pouring out of her mouth, changing colors as she breathed. Red morphed into a fiery orange, which curled into a pale blue, then misty gray. Coughing, she crawled through the tent flap. "Come back," he cried, laughing. "I have so much more to show you." She ran away from the tent back to Wardley and Sir Goran.
Wait a minute, Let me get to the mic again. Hold on. Wait a minute. So this man went from this hookah smoking man went from the alchemist to medicine man to a prophet prophesizing stuff. Now he's just a freaky old bastard. Now he's talking about he's asking if she want to hit, trying to get her high. He done prophesied about her. She follow this. You're the daughter of two fathers, and you shall follow the crumbs to find your throne, and only sin shall your head rest in the grass. He talking out of his head. He trying to get Dinah high. Dinah done got high. And now she ran out the tent, and he said, what did he say? He turned into a straight pervert now. Now he's a pervert. And she trying to run away from his old creepy ass, half naked, sitting there with a Lord. Look, GiGi, it say the man sit there nothing but a whole bunch of pillows in a hookah, smoking on a hookah, with just a loincloth on and some pillows, trying to get her high and prophesizing, and then say, come back. I have so much to... What did he say? I have so much more to show. I bet he do have much more to show her. What else was he gonna show her after that next hit? After the next hit off that hookah, yeah, I'm pretty sure he had a lot to show her. Oh, freaky bastard. You better run, Dinah. Don't go back to that man's tent. You know you're supposed to have Wardley and Sir Goran guarding your ass anyway. And what was more at? Well, this big black ass, the horse. He should have went there and stomped the hell out that damn alchemist. And then getting that girl had talking all that crazy stuff. Okay. Oh, come on,
Give me the mic. Give me the mic.
Give me the mic back. Come on, GiGi.
Nope.
Now.
Give me the mic.
Let me get back. All right. Okay. Let me get back to the mic. All right. Never mind. Okay. This getting good, though. All right. Let me give you the mic back. We gotta keep this in check. This is supposed to be a PG-13 story time telling. I'm guessing it is. Okay. All right. Here you go. Here's your...
Okay. Jeez. Okay. Until the next day, Dinah was still hallucinating from the hookah smoke Ihura, the witch doctor, gave her. Cheshire and Wardley watched over her. They referred to Ihura as the Yerky witch doctor, a powerful witch doctor. Cheshire warned her to stay away from the witch doctor from now on. The nickname for Ihura was the Caterpillar. She had recovered from the drug, but it left her confused for a while. When she heard Wardley tell her, "Tomorrow we begin our march north, Dinah. The war is upon us." Their march toward the Wonderland Palace started. Dinah sits with Wardley and shares her fears about the war and whether they can win, and her fears of losing. Together they admitted their worst fears of losing and being thrown into the Black Towers. Dinah vows to Wardley, quote, "I swear to you this day, here in this place that I will kill you before I let the king torture you, and I hope you will do the same for me." As they were about to make love for the first time in a secluded area away from the camp, it was a clear blue pool of water near a waterfall. Wardley stopped and revealed something to Dinah. He told her, quote, "Don't you understand? I want to love you this way. I never wanted anything as much as I want to love you this way, the way you love me. I begged and pleaded with the gods to give me those feelings for you. I want to be your king, your husband, your lover, but I cannot." He struggled with the words. "I can't force myself to feel those things for you, no matter how much I wish it." She responded, "You don't mean it. I can't." Her voice trembled. "I can't lose you too." He replied, "You are my best friend, a part of me. I will fight for you, for your right to rule to my death. Does that mean anything? Dinah, please say something. I can't bear the silence." Her eyes were opened anew. She replied, "Do not speak to me. Please leave, Sir Wardley. You have done your duty here." He said, "Don't turn away from me. I won't leave you. Not in this state. Please look at me." She turned to him, her face grim, her face a grimace of stone. "Is this all a gimmick, Wardley? One more secret of my twisted upbringing? Did someone hire you to make me love you? Do you remember that day under the julep tree when you kissed me? Was that a part of the plan?" He replied, "There was no plan. You were always my plan, but I can't make myself want you. Not in that way. And of course I remember the julep tree. I kissed you because I wanted to, because you were the first girl that I ever cared for. But then I knew that my feelings for you were not of that nature, no matter how much I tried to force them." "Force them? Did you force yourself to play with me when we were children? Did Cheshire put you up to it? Or to seek me out when we were older? Were you forced to train me on the sword or to follow me here?" He replied, "No, never. You're not listening. You don't understand, Dinah. I would do anything for you." She yelled back, "Except truly love me in the way a man should love a woman. Except kiss me." He said, "Does that matter?" She replied, "Does that even matter? Does it matter?" It was the only thing that ever mattered, Wardley. She turned away from him. "I need you to leave now, Wardley." "Dinah, no." She screamed. "I commanded. Obey me. Leave." He turned away from her, making his way to the edge of the clearing. While walking away, he only said, "I'll be waiting for you tomorrow morning as we ride north."
Wow. Wow. Hold on, let me get to that mic again, G. Hold on. Alright, okay, you gotta get over to the mic again. Wow, this is something we really didn't see coming. That's too bad. That's too bad. That's okay. That's okay. That's
Yep.
okay, Dinah.
Right.
At least you found out now. You know what you tell her? Take a page out of the book of Fantasia. The famous Fantasia wrote a song. She said, "Go ahead and free yourself." You
Right.
tell that man, "Go ahead and free yourself." He come out. He had to force himself.
Hmm.
What did he say again, Gigi?
He had to force
"I
himself.
can't force myself to feel those feelings for you, no matter how much I wish it." Force yourself. Well, you tell her like Fantasia say, "Go ahead and free yourself. If you don't want me, don't talk to me." That's what Fantasia said. But Nina, tell his punk ass to go ahead and free himself. "If you don't want me, don't talk to me," is what she said in her song. Go ahead and free yourself. Go ahead and free. If you don't want me, then don't talk to me. Go ahead and free yourself. That's what she said. Tell him to go free yourself, Dina. Cause you about to be queen anyway. And you ain't gotta make him nothing. No command. The hell with him, Dina. You better off and you can do better. You know what she need to do, Gigi? She need to go ahead and get with Sir Goring. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe she can get with Sir Goring. The way they describe him, Sir Goring ain't no bad looking man. And she could do better than that punk ass Warley. Come on, he had to force himself. Well, I would tell him to go and free himself. Tell him to go free himself. Okay, alright. Tell that man to go free himself. If you don't want me, then don't talk to me. I'm about to be queen anyway. Okay. Alright, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Continue on, GG.
Okay. All right. Dinah is devastated when Wortley admits his true feelings for her, or lack thereof. Dinah has left the limpid blue pool alone. She washed her tears away in the water, looked at her reflection and long black hair. She then took her sword and chopped her hair off in a rage. She chopped it to chin length. Sir Gawain finds her there distraught. He asks her what happened. She sobs into his shoulder and tells him Wortley doesn't want her. He doesn't want me after all this time. So Gawain responds, I'm sorry, your majesty. He's a bloody fool. Come on, let's get you back to your tent. When she returned to her tent alone with her thoughts, disjointed thoughts began to twist in her mind. Shadowy tendrils of skewed reason, a dark smile crept across her face as she left. The rage she had held back for so long consumed her. If she could not quench the fire burning within her, she would set Wonderland ablaze.
Wow, now that was suspenseful. Ending right there, GG the reader. Wow. So it sounds like at the end she just did that what Wortley did affected her, and she turned her bitter, so she about to set the whole kingdom ablaze. Not only she gonna be after the king and her, she ready to fight. Now, if that didn't put no fight into Wortley turning her down like that, nothing else would. It just put some fight in her. So I mean, she went crazy and chopped her hair off, and now she ready to go to war. I guess that made her, but I hope she don't set anything afire. I wouldn't set my kingdom afire for that fool. I mean, damn that. I mean, he ain't all that. I mean, I would be angry. She'd already chopped the hair off, but I would set my kingdom afire and go back, and that'll give me more energy to go after that damn bastard King of Hearts. Okay, that was a good story, so I guess we're gonna read her next book out after this one.
Yep, okay, next book after this one, the sequel, this is War of the Cards. And I will be reading that and giving my review so we can find out what happens with the war that she starts with the King of Hearts and Mundu and Cheshire and Sir Gawain and the rest of them gonna help her fight her war. Just join me when I do a review of my next book. My next review will be War of the Cards, the sequel to this book. Thank you for listening. Please like and subscribe.